Hello everyone, this game I have prepared for you is the real masterpiece. It was played in 1935 in Ukraine, and it's played between Efim Korchmar and Abram Borisovich Poliak. And well, I couldn't really find any information on Mr. Poliak and very little information on Mr. Efim Korchmar, other than he was a Soviet chess player and that he was a coach. But I did find an entry in the Russian Wikipedia. I will put it in the description below so you can check it out if you want to learn some more about him. But it's really his greatest achievement in chess is playing this game that holds the title the Ukrainian Immortal. So let's see this game. Mr. Efim Korchmar is white and Mr. Poliak is black. We have e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5, the Ruy Lopez. And here we have d6, the old Steinitz defense. d4, bishop to d7, knight to c3, knight to f6, white castles, and now knight captures on d4. And this isn't considered the best move because, well, white will get a very nice central square for his queen. Bishop captures on d7 with check, queen captures on d7, knight captures on d4, e captures on d4, and queen captures on d4. And this queen is, well, it's a beautiful square for the queen. We have bishop to e7, rook to d1, preparing e5, and black castles. And white indeed does push e5. Of course, the black can't capture this because he loses a piece. As you can see, rook captures on d7, white is up a piece. So after e5, Mr. Poliak goes knight to e8. And here we have bishop to f4. If black captures the pawn, queen captures pawn, and well, this rook on d1 is very nicely eyeing that queen on d7. And the black plays a5, he wants some expansion on the queen side. We have rook to d3, and well, I always enjoy a good rook lift. Whenever I see a rook lift, I know that, that this will be a great game. We have rook to a6, and now rook to e1, queen to f5, and now knight to d5, attacking that bishop on e7 and, well, threatening knight captures on e7, forking the king and the queen. So bishop to d8, and this bishop is now nicely controlling this knight on d5. We have e captures on d6, knight captures on d6, and now rook to g3. Okay, Mr. Efim is threatening mate on g7, so this has to be defended. We have f6, and now bishop to h6, now threatening rook captures on g7 with check. Black defends this, rook to f7, and we have knight to b4. And well, this is a pretty amazing move. I mean, what's the idea here? The idea is that black can't really capture the knight, so white is actually winning a rook, this rook on a6. But Mr. Poliak wasn't really convinced that the knight was immune from capture. So he captured it, a captures on b4. And well, this is the first brilliant move of the game, and in this position, Mr. Efim Korchmar plays queen captures on d6. And well, this is an amazing move, as the queen cannot be captured. If you capture the queen, for example, rook captures on d6, it doesn't matter if you capture with the rook or the pawn, you get rook to e8 check, and after rook to f8, you get rook captures on g7 with check. Only move, king to h8, and rook captures on f8 with checkmate. So after this, queen to d6, the queen cannot be captured. So black has to play something else. He tries queen to d7, now defending, and here comes the second brilliant move of the game, and I believe this move is even more brilliant than the previous one. He plays queen to d5. Now again offering his queen, of course the queen cannot be captured. If you capture the queen, you lose to the same idea of rook e8, but now this queen is actually pinning this rook on f7, so now rook captures on g7 is again a threat. So black plays king to f8, now unpinning from this idea, and well, this is the third brilliant move of the game. In this position, Mr. Korchmar plays rook captures on g7, totally disregarding that, well, the rook isn't pinned anymore. So what do you play here? If you capture the rook, well, then queen captures on d7 is completely winning, as now the rook is pinned, since the king is now on f8. So after this rook captures on g7 idea, black decided to capture the queen. We have queen captures on d5, but now white can play, for example, rook to g5 with a discover check from the bishop, and then capture the queen, and he will be a pawn up. This will be okay for him. But instead, he finds the third brilliant move of the game, and that's rook to g8 with a double check. and the only move for the black king is to capture the rook. And well, even though he really tried to get away from g8, and he played that king to f8 move, you know, to get away, it didn't do him much good. Only move is king captures on g8. We have rook to e8 with check, rook to f8, defending only move, and now rook captures on f8 with checkmate. So yeah, definitely a brilliant game, definitely deserving of the name, the Ukrainian Immortal. And I believe it equally stands with all other Immortal games throughout chess history. So yeah, I would like to thank Alexander Room and Brandon C for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. And just for fun, I will put a link in the description below where Mr. Efim Korchmar faces Rashid Nejmetdinov. It's also quite a game, be sure to check it out. So yeah, as usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you soon.